Greetings. Thank you for still just being patient with the recording here, and we thank you all for being on the line still, as well listening to this in the replay. So everyone needs to trust. Once again, this is an episode where a lot of people, ask the question, you know, when we go private, I need to learn about it before I do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the way that we tell people, the way that we know so much is through having a Black's Law Dictionary. Having a Black's Law Dictionary is critical. It's critical to you being able to understand the language of legal. For you to understand financial language, financial terms are legal terms. And so it's just very imperative that you learn these things. Uh, when it comes to even trust, everybody says they need one. But why do they really need them? Why do they ask for them? What are they really asking when they ask for them? And what they're asking for is asset protection. And what they're asking for is asset protection. A lot of times, a lot of people are looking to protect assets. They're looking to take those things out of their name, put them in an asset protection position. That's why there's so many different names for the entities, because people are protecting various assets in different type of entities. So, so many people say, oh, I need to trust to protect assets. A lot of times you get a lot of people say, oh, I need it. Well, if you need it, then it's sort of like air. And when we encountered it, it was the same exact thing. You need to get, and then in turn, we got. And in turn, it was a situation where if you needed it, you're going to get it. And it's not going to be a delay. When we saw this opportunity of trusteeship, it was an immediate investment in private education. So many people are confusing private education with public education. The way that they think about information. The information is meant to be learned. It's not a so many people think, oh, I gotta learn it before I do it. That's not any field of area of expertise. All areas are learned through a work in progress. And so many people, they say they need to trust, but then they're not looking to implement the education process right now. And that's the biggest gap that people run into, is by not knowing about it, you're not going to move forward. So a lot of people get stuck on the ineptness of not knowing. Oh, well, I don't know, so I'm not going to move forward. Well, in anything that you do, there's going to be a level of risk. That's what the private side presents. You're looking to be an entrepreneur. You're looking to be an investor. Have you ever heard of the word risk? You can't be risk averse as an entrepreneur or an investor. You have to have a high level, high tolerance for risk. It's important to understand that paychecks aren't going to be every 2 weeks. They're going to change depending on the type of business vehicle you're in, depending on the type of investment that you're in. The nature changes based off of those different factors. There's a lot more at risk here. Why? Because it's based off of your soul getting up and being able to create some type of business or some type of investment where now wealth is coming to your family. It's not you walking in and applying. This isn't monkey work. This isn't a monkey driving a car. This is not a monkey going to space. This is you balancing the checkbook for once and for all. As an entrepreneur, as an investor, what person would think that an investor does not manage the investments? Most hedge funds are started by the individual that has the largest capital stake inside of the hedge fund. Traditionally, they have the largest capital stake. Hedge fund managers. Everybody needs a trust. Everybody needs a trust, but the hedge fund managers are the ones that are in them. They're the ones making 8 to 9 figures. Hedge funds. Well, people say, oh man, knowledge is power. We've heard that one recently. We've heard that for years though. Knowledge is power. Well, if everybody needs a trust, don't you need solid education and trusteeship? What do you think trustees that are training their children to manage the entity for the next generation are doing? They're teaching their children right now. as their children are growing. Not wait until they turn 18 and start teaching them about the family estate, the family business. Everybody needs a trust, but are they willing to enroll in the educational program that that gives them the education that they need to jumpstart or continue going through and tightening up some of the reins? Because we sit in front of lawyers all the time and they'll tell you to your face, oh, well, we that's something we've known that can be done. We just haven't really executed because most of our clients don't want to divest themselves of their assets. And so we hear this type of terminology. You hear the lawyers very impressed. The trustee training program, why wouldn't a lawyer go through it? It just it's everyone needs a trust, right? Do you talk to your lawyers? Do you ask them, are they in trust? Most of them have money in escrow when it comes to them. They're doing real estate contracts with people that are their clients. It's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, to see that everyone needs a trust. No, they don't. Not anymore. After the years of trusteeship, we even think that everybody should be an entrepreneur, but no. Trusteeship is the highest calling of life. It's stewardship. You don't own anything. People have been born into a world where they think they can own something. And what does ownership mean? It gives you liability, but for some odd reason people want to keep owning something. For some odd reason. Why? Because of programming and training. And now we get into this situation where people are looking for an out. The out's been in front of you all the whole time. It's business, it's not personal. And so everyone needs a trust to pass on a legacy. To pass on a legacy. So many people, they're listening to this and they're not going to pass on a legacy. A legacy is actually something worthwhile. People say, "Oh, I don't have any protection right now for legacy purposes." We sat in front of, what's interesting is we'll sit in front of people that actually have quite a bit of capital and money, and they have trust. They just don't have the style of trust that trustee training traditionally trains you for, but these people still have trust. These people have different types of trust all over. Like we say, 80 different type of things. They have them. But it's interesting that the ones that have the millions, they had to get into it. They were forced. Whereas people that don't make millions, they don't invest on the education, which the education is what's allowing the people at the top to keep their money. We had this was recently we ran into a guy in real estate. He said he was paying $250,000 in taxes. That's low, but he was paying $250,000 in taxes, and he said he hated it, and he was in trust, and they weren't real estate investment trusts, which is interesting because he was in real estate. But that's what happens is when you get a private education, you understand the so-called different names of trust. I don't know which one to get into. People think they can distill it down to 4 names. How? There's over 80. They calling it whatever they need to at the moment. And we live in a world of contracts. Private education. Why wasn't a private education taught in public school? Why wasn't the law taught in public school? Why wasn't finance taught in public school? That's why everyone needs a trust. Because those things are taught in trustee training. When you go through trustee training, the higher level you go in trusteeship, you learn more and more about finance. The more and more you learn about private asset protection. Private trustee training prepares you for those environments because those environments are available right now as we speak. Traditionally, the environments that consider to be wealth are traditionally an accredited investor, which is someone that generates over $250,000 a year, and then there's other preliminary requisites. And we're not talking about doing that as a job. That's completely honest. If that's a salary from a company that you manage, that's great. But to be completely honest, those things are $250,000 uh, from a company is good. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about being a trustee, and a trustee is traditionally going to be focused on owning under control and everything, making sure that the entity, making sure that the trust, making sure whatever they're managing is working properly. It does make you have to provide a superior knowledge base. If you all don't know who Elon Musk is, or if you all know who Elon Musk is, he's basically the CEO, the guy that launched Tesla cars, the electric cars. And what's surprising is most people don't know is that even though he's considered to be, he started out, he started out the company. Let's just say that he may not be the owner, because most people don't on this show that we talk about owning under control and everything. But Elon Musk is still a heavily vested player in that company. He did take outside funds, but nevertheless, he still is basically the CEO of the company. So as the CEO of the company, a lot of people they talk about it, but see, he walked about it. He literally knows every part in every car. And a lot of people will be really surprised. They say, no way. There's no way he knows that. It is probably possibly impossible for him to know every detail of every car. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk knows every part on every car. And they have at least over 5 models. And when I say every part, I mean every part. A lot of people say there's no way he could possibly know that. And that's the sad part is most people will never know their business to that level of detail. And that's just one part of the business. He knows every part on every car. He knows the design. He knows all of that. And that's trusteeship. He doesn't get paid a salary from that company, ladies and gentlemen. This is trusteeship. He doesn't get a salary. He just gets to sleep on the company floor and know every part of the car. He reads he co-writes the manuals. He is there completely for $1 billion company. Tesla is considered to be over $100 million company, and they have cars on the road, and they have reported to not have taken any profits. They are reported to right now not be in the profit zone. You see how all of that works? When people say, oh, the company filed bankruptcy, yep, it was operating already 5 years past not having any money. Well, how does it not have money? I thought Elon funded it. I thought he got outside investors. Yeah, that money went into cost to run it. These people are looking for big returns. Who says that they want to bankrupt the company? But at the end of the day, if a company hasn't made any money, when is it going to make any money? Should be a profitable company if the company has a jet that Elon rides on and sleeps on the floor and gets meals paid for through company credit cards and all that good stuff. See, that's part of the fund that they grow. And we don't even get to even talk much about crowdfunding on here. I wish we were able to talk more about crowdfunding. A lot of times crowdfunding is a trust. Why? Because it's a contract. People are giving money to a fund, a trust fund. It's a contract fund, a fund that the contract is supposed to do something. People give money to a contract, and then the contract is going to be executed by who? The trustee. Well, that's crowdfunding. So, when we talk about real estate investment from a crowdfunding perspective, a lot of times we're not able to break into that conversation because where are the minds that are coming forth that are saying that they need to crowdfund for their ventures? People crowdfund for their birthday. We saw that online, but we didn't really see many people crowdfunding for great ventures. I'm sure those things are out there. A lot of times, a lot of the investors are getting invested in by VCs, from what we see right now, outside investors. But there's investment going on at every level. And so we even talked to some investors recently where we're actually, now that we thought about it, I got to give them a call. They were talking about how they couldn't get a non-figure property because their name wasn't able to go into that area and buy prospective property. So, trust allowed them the anonymity to be able to go into an area and be able to go and acquire this property, or at least have the opportunity to bid on the property, whereas the buyer's name wasn't able to actually be able to go and talk to the seller directly. So there was some type of anonymity given to the parties, that were looking to sell, and they gave opportunity for buying power now, because you have a position of privacy. People don't know who you are, and at the end of the day, you're doing business on behalf of a trust. the trust is doing business with that other party, and there was a great relationship and transaction that was done very smoothly with that type of situation put in place. So when we talk about everybody needs a trust, we see so many people say, oh, we need to put these assets in a trust. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can tell you why most people aren't going to move into the private. And it's only two reasons. A, you don't have enough money. That's just the bottom line. The individuals don't feel like they have enough money to protect. When you get to a certain level, you feel like you have enough to protect, you're going to do it. That's the first priority. Like, you get enough money and then you think about protecting it. There's a lot of people don't have enough money to protect. That's the first reason why most people aren't going to traditionally get into it. And secondly, they don't have the entrepreneur mentality. They don't have the investor mentality. They don't have the muscles to say that we have to learn dynamically different businesses, learn how to manage people, the skills. The mentors always talk about the skill set. It's the skill set. You have to adopt a skill set. It's a private skill set. It requires risk. You have to have a high risk tolerance. That's why you see the elite in these entities, because they're able to make decisions very quickly. They're able to say they're going to put themselves under the gun, put themselves under the pressure, get into the fight, and do what is ever necessary to protect a position of superiority instantly. Instantly. And so those are some of the reasons that we see people that say they need it and then they don't use it and get in it, and that comes from when we truly talk about it. We're going to do an episode about the entrepreneur versus the business versus the investor mentality, because the business versus the investor mentality is a big difference. And even still, people that go into trust and they think about growing businesses, we see that they still grow in trust as trustees, the ones that actually focus on growing businesses. Traditionally, a lot of the entrepreneurs that transition into trust immediately are going to be entrepreneurs, because they're the ones that's getting hit with a high tax liability. They're making a lot more money because they're entrepreneurs. They're probably hiring people, and so they just make that transition immediately. Traditionally, entrepreneurs do, whereas employees traditionally just don't. They don't have the mindset of hey, we have something to protect. But everybody said they need a trust. Even as we did an episode about, even if you have a job, you need one. Why wouldn't you? It's a family situation. Trust involves family. So, you know, everyone needs a trust. But, there's so many people that don't think that they uh, need to make that move immediately. And then another reason why people don't go, and here's the second reason, is because people aren't feeling any pain. Uh, a lot of people aren't feeling any pain. They're comfortable. This is number two reason. So the first one, they don't have anything to protect. They don't have any money. That's basically what that means. And it's interesting because the first trainings that we got was in trustee training, as a pup in trustee training, was they asked the question, well, who needs to trust? And anybody, and that question they said is anybody that has anything worth protecting. That was the answer to the trustees at the time, and we knew immediately, okay, so this is something that you got to have something for. It could be a watch, it could be a house, it could be anything. First thing we got to do is protect it. That was the first thing they taught us, because that was one of the first P's, was asset protection, and that came through asset separation, separating yourself. And we heard that lesson, but the main thing is people aren't feeling any pain. They haven't been sued for anything, and if they have, they still haven't felt enough pain. So many people are comfortable in America right now. America is at the all-time high for debt. So many people are debt ridden. They got student loans out the wazoo. Everybody that you see on TV, they're in debt. The newscasters on debt. The guy that owns the football team, he's in debt. The guy that owns the basketball team, he's in debt. There's so many people that are in debt. Debt is running a society right now, and rightfully so. The states has given that message of debt instruments, and so you all can see that the public is resounding doing the same exact thing. And who's in trust? The private. How's the private doing? How's the private sector doing, ladies and gentlemen? The private sector has not taken any hits. Okay, they weed out some hedge fund managers that were basically selling the bad bonds in real estate anyways. So those guys went out of business because they were selling bad bonds. They got consolidated by bigger banks, and bigger banks are still consolidating every day because people are still selling. They were selling these bonds. We're not going to say they still are, but they were selling these bonds. There were so many bad bonds. We talked to real estate people. People are saying there's so many houses in foreclosure right now. There's so many houses that are being transitioned that still haven't come off the market from that housing debacle from 2009. It's 10 years later. There's still houses on the market. And so the market has become a land grab for investors across the board, whether that's renting out to foreigners that are coming to the United States and traveling, or locals that are just looking to rent out. They're renting out. You know, you all hear that America is a renter nation. We've already gotten this wave. The wave is on us. It's tsunami status. The wave is on us. America is a renter nation. People don't need to be ashamed of renting. You don't get ashamed of something when your rent's being paid for, but you're living in a great place and location that you specifically want. But at the same time, you know, you have rental properties, or you have other businesses, you have other investments that are paying for the property. And it's the mindset of a trustee. It's the mindset of a trustee right now. Is going to win every single time. But people aren't feeling any pain right now. They're able to live with debt. Think about how many of you all are able to live with debt. And when you get into trusteeship, people are always trying to get rid of debt. What happens if I come into the private? Can I get rid of the debt? You know, can we get rid of the debt on the property? Can we get it's ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing called a fraudulent transfer. If you're transferring assets that have a debt and trying to say you got rid of the debt, is a fraudulent transfer. So many people, you know, they ask these questions, you know, well, can I do this? You don't need to ask, can you do it? You already know you can't do it. Does it sound legal or moral or ethical? And then secondly, we always recommend, why don't you consult with a lawyer about these wild ideas? You're allowed to call lawyers and talk to them for a free period of time. There you go. Call them. Just like when we talk to everybody that talks about the UCC, we say talk about the securities agent. Go to a securities agent. Ask them how to securitize what you consider is your birth certificate or something of that nature. No one has ever came back to the vault, came back to these public platforms that talk about that UCC stuff, and they talk about the birth certificate, and none of them have securitized it. Most of them don't talk about it in that manner. They haven't talked about a securities agent. They just talk about what they did privately. Well, you all know what a notary is. That's what a securities agent is similar to. They're a public officer. There's someone that's licensed. There's someone that knows how to affirm what you're doing in the public is correct. And if you're filing and dealing with the UCC, that's public. So you know how to operate with the right counsel. This is business. And in business, you have a team. You have an outside consultant, which is the securities agent. You don't think that their trust operating off of what you consider something similar to your birth certificate? Yes, there is. They're operating off what's considered options. These are people that are operating off futures contracts. If you know anything about futures contracts, this is the stock market and paper assets at play. This is nothing new. Paper trading has been going on before me and you were born. So just because we stumbled upon the internet gurus that are talking about your birth certificate, and they're saying that it has some value and you can collateralize it and securitize it, but the individual didn't say, well, how do we securitize it publicly to go public on a public stock exchange? They don't talk about that because they don't know, because they're gurus. They're the gurus online. And then people come to trustee training, and most of the time they stop talking about the UCC. Why? Because we tell them, let them know, trusteeship is contract. So contract already let you know you're going to learn public trusteeship, which is the UCC. You're whatever position, what position are you in the UCC contract? You know, you're either a creditor or a debtor. So there's obviously a position that you have to hold, whether you're the trustee of a position or whatever it is. You know, you could be a CEO of a company. There are companies that literally have UCC contracts, many of them. Banks are creditors, and then they give money to revolving credit loans to what? To companies through the UCC. These are things that you can Google. And so when people talk about that, you know, we really talk about, okay, you need to be in trust, and then they try to say, well, I got the UCC contract, I got the bank account. We know so many people listen that say that stuff. And we've always been at the vault focused on companies, growth with companies, investments. We're going to do a dynamic episode with the business versus the investing, because so many people don't understand what the difference is, and they don't understand. As a trustee, you have to know that. You definitely have to know the difference between an investment. There's so many people that they're not even trustees inside of a trust, and their family created a trust, and then they inherit $30,000 and immediately blow it because they want to put it in the stock market. And there's nothing the trustee can do. There's nothing the trustee can do. You got to sit there. You as the trustee got to sit there over the family estate and see someone else blow it because they put money into what's considered an investment. It's not. It's not a business. They could have put it into a turnkey operation like a fitness studio or something, and immediately turn that money over. Sometimes businesses fail too. That's called a risk. But as you all can see, you can lose it a lot faster through paper. That's why so many people are scared of paper. Trustees, so many people go through trustee training. They have to get toughened up. People go through trustee training and say, "Oh, trust Christian, man. He's a real guy." Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You guys haven't seen nothing. The mentors are so much more. You guys think that trust Christian is hard. The mentors, they're cutthroat. They understand that as a trustee, the highest calling that you're at. They understand they're walking that line all the time. Donald Trump even walked the line. Donald Trump was willing to risk it all. He said, "I'm going to go be the president." Okay, he became the president. And now his assets are subject to being examined. Why? Because you're in the public now. Okay, well, how many of his assets have been disclosed? How many people know how many properties he has? How many people really know all of his wealth? But for some odd reason, Jay-Z just appeared on Forbes 400 list disclosing the whole portfolio. How come Donald Trump didn't disclose his tax records, let alone the portfolio? People say, "Oh, but we know about the Trump trust. They're gonna sneak around. They're gonna go get some information." Well, we see that there's a Trump trust, Christian, and we can see that he has a trust, and we can see the assets in that trust. Okay, sure thing. For ladies and gentlemen, most people, particularly that type of gentleman right there, he has over 500 trusts easily. Easily. They're children. They're like money. They protect assets. You ask Donald Trump, you say, "Donald Trump, what do you know about the tax code?" Donald Trump say, "I know everything about the tax code." What does that mean? Don't own anything to him. I never have to show you anything. He doesn't want to tweet that though. And he'll tweet it and people still won't know what he's talking about. People try to forgive every president. They're all presidents are in the same situation. They have to be. You're in a position at the highest calling. You got a team around you. Got a cabinet. It's a team. You see how the game's played. You got to have teams. So you had a team. All presidents have teams that let them know, hey, this is the type of entity you should be looking into. From your book sales. You want to disclose those book sales or not. A lot of presidents have books. Isn't that how they do it? And as a trustee, they're operating in one of the highest positions as a trustee. They have an administration. When you're a trustee, you have an administration. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, my parent passed and now I'm an executrix or an executor or of a contract or a will. I have to be in a position of testamentary trustee." Okay. What trustee training program have you heard of other than the Vault? There's only one other trustee training program we can say that we know that's over YouTube that we can call. We've seen a lot. There's only one trustee training program that compares and comes close. And that's because we trained with this disciple. It's just someone that comes from the same exact system, same exact time, has studied through the ranks, and is a peer. So we know the peer. It's not like we don't know the peer. We know the peer. That's in the public that has a training program. And we're talking about someone that does for under $250,000, whereas the rest of the trustees that are in the public that are training programs, they're over $250,000. Don't step in a room unless you have $250,000, otherwise you don't have any value. $250,000 is a good start. These people are traditionally looking for any type of investment. They're private investments. So you all know that the risk tolerance is a lot higher. You all know that we're talking hedge fund status now. So you know we're talking 40 times multiples. We're talking 400 times multiples. We're talking about people that are definitely in the crypto space taking advantage of the upswings, getting big swings on the crypto investments. There's a ton of people doing that in the crypto space. There's still crypto hedge funds that are survived. Oh yeah, these guys are 50 million up still. 50 million up. 100 million up, and they're managing, and they're doing what you're supposed to do, because they're not in it just for an investment. That's one thing that you can identify. It's actually a market. So crypto has turned into a business now. So people are investing in what would be considered the business aspect of it, the actual technology, the development of the technology. And the players that are investing right now, they're going to reap great rewards. These guys already know that they're billionaires. They're just building how many billions they're actually going to collect along the way. If it's going to be 20, if they're going for a trillion. I think there's actually a trillion dollar. There's trillion dollar companies out there, so they're going for trillions. Just like we said, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the era of trillion-dollar companies. These guys are going for trillions in the crypto space. You guys haven't seen what numbers can look like when it comes to holding digital assets. People have talked about digital assets. Oh, crypto is going to replace the money. It's going to actually replace asset holding on ledgering, which is interesting because it's just going to become digital. You're going to say you don't actually need to hold the real asset. That kind of replaces to a degree the stock market, because you don't have to. Once again, that's the futures market. Think about it. When you hold Apple stock, do you hold the company Apple? No. You hold a piece of paper that says it's supposed to be worth this, and guess what? The price can change at any moment, and when you cash it in, there's a premium. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So, a whole bunch of stuff. Premiums, taxes. You want us to keep going on that? It's going and going and going. So, everyone says they need a trust. Everyone says they need it for the reasons. But the wealthy ones are the ones that need it. The wealthy ones are the ones that have a lot more at risk. Somebody that's not making much doesn't have much to risk. Someone that has a measly less than $100,000 tax liability, they don't have as much to risk. Think about it. You lose 100K in taxes. People are begging to make that in a year. Oh man, I want to make $100,000. I get $100,000. My life will be incredible, man. $100,000 divided by 12. That means I'm making $9,000 a month. That's good money right there. $9,000 a month. After taxes, I'm making about $6,000. And then I got to pay tax on everything else. But I can save. I think I could save. Probably $1,000 a month. So I save $12,000 in a year. What investment are you doing with $12,000? Is that a down payment on a house? I can do that a few years in a row. Okay. So you're not going on no vacations. You're not partying at all. Well, I didn't say all of that. I know. They say the average American is not saving $1,000 a month. They say the average American has less than $5,000 in savings, less than $10,000 in savings, and you're going to do that? So we already know that plan's not going to work. We really do. We know that plan's not going to work. So then we wanted. Oh man, this was so great timing. We want to let you all know how being in trust is for dummies. See, the ones that succeed in trust are the dummies. They're foolish enough to take the risk at being a trustee. Let me share with you the successful dummy trustees. J.D. Rockefeller did not have a high school education. Henry Ford did not have past a middle school education. Andrew Carnegie did not pass high school education. Bill Gates did not graduate from college. Mark Zuckerberg did not graduate from college. See how they eliminated the formal education excuse? Oh man, I wasn't brought up in a good area. I don't really know how to read that well. Okay, this is the best time in life to learn. And guess what? They only needed to learn what they were doing. And that's what they did. They learned trusteeship. They learned how to own nothing, control everything. Ain't that who coined it? J.D. Rockefeller? My key to success is own nothing, control everything. What do he say? Competition is sin. He doesn't like competition. He didn't have but a high school education. They took when we say they had a congressional hearing to see if Henry Ford was an idiot. They had a congressional hearing. Just like they interviewed Zuckerberg, just like they interviewed Bezos. They interviewed, excuse me, I don't know if they interviewed Bezos, but I know they interviewed the banking institutions that you all bank with every day. They interviewed them and asked them, should you give back the $200 million bonus you received? They said, I'm not in control of that. The board is in control of that decision. So do you think it was ethical to give it right? Once again, ma'am, I just want to repeat that I'm not in control of that decision. So did you take it? Yes, I did. He's in trusteeship. The company was going through supposed bad times. The company and his bonus, is it safe to say it grew? That's in trusteeship. That's everybody that's in trusteeship. That's who's in trusteeship. The aggressive. It's not made for the meek. We see people even in philanthropy and trust. We never really even get to that conversation. And so many people, they're ducking and dodging that conversation. We got them ducking and dodging all day, left and right, because we're going to go to tax exemption. We're going to go to tax write-off. We're going to go to that. When we even see oil companies that are getting tax shelter deductions in their field, and that's for profit. So when we even go to what's considered nonprofit, or we're going to go more philanthropy, we can see that is a dominating field for trusteeship. So many people want to raise funds. Once again, we go back to the crowdfunding. You do that in through trusteeship and philanthropy. You can do that. You can take the crowdfunding contract and actually get it approved by the IRS as it being a 501c3 for the cause that it's actually for. But that's private trustee training. That's an investment in your private education. Love private trusteeship on the philanthropy side. Why? How long is charity going to be around? Forever. Charity's going to be around forever. Loans are going to be around forever. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to the replay. Once again, it's not made for the most intelligent. Trusteeship is not made for the most intelligent. It's a system. You have to put the system together. It's like Legos, or it's like a puzzle. You know how when you build a puzzle, if you all are listening and built a puzzle before, if you haven't, I'm sorry you won't get this analogy. But if you all have built a puzzle, the puzzle is on the front of the box. You look at it, you see how it looks, and then you just start putting pieces together that fit. Well, this is one of those things where it's painting by the numbers. You got the number, you paint the number that they tell you in the key. Red for 1, orange for 2, green for yellow. Green for 4. Different colors. You paint them. It's literally just putting together something that's already put together before. That's why you have the image before you. The image before you is private trusteeship. Oh, I don't know what private trusteeship looks like. It looks like you being a true, what we would consider or call a CEO, but now you're the true chief executive officer, true chief manager, and you're going to have to employ other people. When you go get an employer identification number, that's truly what you're supposed to do. But not all trusts have to employ people. They can just hold assets. But then when you see you as a trustee initially gritting off the ground, even in the private sector with the charity, you can still see you having to employ people, whether it's the bookkeeper, whether that's the accountant, whether that's the lawyer, to make sure you're still good with record keeping, making sure your records are up to date, and just having someone come through and audit you in terms of being very rigorous on your record keeping, as a trustee. So it's very important to be in that position. And we always tell people there's only 2 ways to learn private trusteeship, and that's through a mentor or a private community, and that's what the Vault's private trustee training provides. You get Q&A, you get the materials privately, you get lessons, and you get the mentor. A lot of times, a lot of people don't know what a mentor is. It's interesting to see who actually takes advantage of the training fully. How many people actually take 100% full advantage of the training, whereas so many people, sometimes they take a percentage of the training. Why? That almost means they're trying to shortcut it. They don't have the muscle capacity for it. So many people might as well say that they're distracted right now. Oh, I'm distracted. Sure you are. Until the pain comes. See, we already know why you're not doing it, because you're either not making enough money or you don't have enough pain on you. But that's That's why you're not going to do it. The ones that take it serious, sometimes they usually have something to protect. That's the main reason. It's the first reason off the beginning. Yeah, they're going to make a profit with that asset, but they actually say, okay, the entity is what's to protect my cash flow. If I don't put that in place, that's like me trying to put together two things that are connect without putting a thing that actually connects the two things. And so they just understand that, whether they've been in that position before or not. Investing in themselves is taking full advantage of everything that they have, everything at their disposal, which is really good. Should be taking advantage of the actual training to its full advantage, 100%. And that's the difference. So, we know everybody needs to be in trust. Everybody needs a trust because they say they need one. But when it's come time for you to invest in your private education, to actually find out, everybody say, I want to know how to set it up, set it up. Well, okay, once it's set up, how do you, what's a trustee? Do you know that term? Do you know what a grantor is? Do you know what a beneficiary is? Do you know what disbursements are? Do you know how the accounting is supposed to be done? No, that's trustee training. That's where you learn it all. You don't say, well, I want to read up on it some more. It's private, so you're either going to focus on the public stuff or you're going to focus on the private stuff. The private is truly that. It's a resource, it's a tool. Private trustee training is going on with or without the vault. There are private trustee trainings, they're just going on higher levels. They're going on levels that you have to have 100 million to sit in a room. There's no need to sit in a room because you don't have enough money. And that's not even trustee training, but they're training trustees because at that level, that's what you have. And you think all of them got there. You think Henry Ford, first of all, if he was born without an education, that means he didn't have any money. So he started like you, from ground zero. For entrepreneurs or investors that started from ground zero, some people start with more capital. There are investors that walk into situations, or people, employees or self-employed people that walk into having tons of capital and don't know what to do with it, and they literally try to throw it at investment. They don't know what's the difference between a business and an investment. They're just throwing money at stuff. Oh, I lent my friend some money. You lent your friend money, but for some odd reason, you're not a lender. Now you're having to destroy a personal relationship because you wanted to be a lender because you have what's considered a savings. We see these things all the time. So when you're in trust, you don't own the money. You have to tell a buddy, hey man, I ain't got no money. That's a true statement. I don't got any money. And so many people want to sit here and boo-hoo, oh, trust Christian, I don't have anything. You already came to the vault incorrectly. I don't have anything. We all got the air that God just gave us. We got something. Be thankful for something. Blessings come when you're thankful. But how many people are thankful that the vault is here? You want to know how you show that you're thankful for the vault? You go through the training. The vault is only here looking for trustees. Facts. A lot of people want to be listeners of gurus over the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all about making sure that you grow your family, grow your businesses, and move forward in a private capacity, because that's where the awesome opportunities for investment are going on, and lifestyle are going on right now. Always have been, always will be. We're into legacy. We're into where your family does it. No one's going to work next to your family last name. People don't work next to the Waltons. Common last name, but it ain't working to the Waltons. You're not working next to the Zuckerbergs. You're not working next to a lot of last names. And for families that want to do that, the Rothschilds, for all of those families that want to do that, you have that opportunity. Thanks for everybody shooting out the love. We always appreciate the energy. This episode is for trustees. A lot of trustees listen to these episodes, and we want to make sure that the trustees know what's going on. Because the trustees even say, oh, everybody needs a trust. But then, how much are you willing to invest in your private education? We invest in thousands, man, thousands and thousands and thousands. And you talking about $250 consultation? That's not even a conference in the private. A conference in the private I mean, okay, we'll give you the low end because people want to know, how low can it go? $600 to $800. That's some people's rent in America. That's some people's car payment in America. And you got to come up with that, and you got to invest. What if there are conferences back to back that you got to travel to get the knowledge that you need to protect your family's estate? See what happened? Why ain't nobody doing want to do it? Because they don't have anything to protect. Why don't people have questions? Here's the famous thing. Let's get to it. Why don't people have questions? Because you ain't got nothing to protect. You don't. Well, I'm just here for the knowledge. You're here for the knowledge for what? You ain't got nothing to do with the knowledge. So the knowledge is like going to public school. We learned a lot of stupid stuff in public school, but we ain't using it. How many of y'all learn algebra, but you sit in front of a computer typing emails all day? They has nothing to do with algebra. That's public school. It gives you a lot of information for no reason. See, when you come into the private, it's short, simple, and direct. This is the easiest path to wealth. It's called own nothing, control everything. Because if you own something, you can get taxed out of it. All right, cool. But on the back of that, if you're going to start making some money and people know your name, they're going to try to just sue you. They're going to come and slip and fall on your business. Oh, man. Or they're going to try to say that you gave them bad financial advice. Whatever it is. That's the world we live in right now. When people even talk about the paper as far as investments, the paper is what's running the business world. It's the contracts. And so we have a Michael Jordan for the past decade that we've listened to and associated with. Got a chance to meet him actually for my birthday, I think this year. I think it was either my birthday or the day before. But yeah, it was either the day before or my birthday. I think it was the day before my birthday. Either way, it doesn't matter. But got a chance to meet this Michael Jordan of inspiration. Went from homeless to having a PhD, and very very motivational. But what has held us for 5+ years and has literally taken the internet by storm was Eric Thomas saying, "When you want success as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful." And there's so many people that say, "I need a trust," but they don't need it as bad as they breathe. There's so many people that say, "Oh, I heard about the trust. I need to get in the trust." That's what they say. I heard about it. I need to get in it. How do you know you need to get in it? You want to know why? Because unconsciously, you know you have a public education and you have a inferior entity. You know you're in an inferior position. That's what they come to the phone and say. They say, "I've known about this my whole life, but I haven't taken advantage of it." Okay. How many people are in trust with their best friends? Are you going to go in trust with your best friend? Do you trust these people to be married with these people? Who do you have that you're close enough that you can trust being in trust with? How about that? Everybody needs a trust, but they don't need a team. No, trust and team go hand in hand. You have a board of trustees. Since there's a board of trustees, there's more than one. Hopefully it's more than one. When we look at the voter, we say, man, hopefully it's not just Trust Christian. I promise you, it's not. There's mentorship. There's trustees that sit on the board of trustees that make decisions. We have a running team of advisors for many different industries. You actually, hopefully you can build a team that's very close knit, but then you also build an outer team. We've seen this through many mentors. People say your network's your net worth. All right, well, how many rich people do you know? We can pick up the phone and say, hey, yeah, we know the guys that can raise the funds in 2 weeks. The millions. That's the power. Like Cornell always says when he comes on, he says, we have these people in our phone that we can call, that we can say, and they'll make moves, because they know who we are. But at the end of the day, it's about you and your family. And that's one of the best things that we saw this past weekend in a private education training a training with Cornell and the trustee training for the trading. And it was just such a blessing because he talked about how it's about you and your family. And so many were on there. It was just like, we really hope they get that, man. So many people are all looking at other people's lives, but it's about your family. And we understand that that might sound like a selfish perspective, but guess what? It's just best believe the Zuckerberg family, the Bill and Melinda Gates family, the Warren Buffett family, and all these families, they're gonna be good. And if their family's gonna be good, your family should be good too. And the opportunity is upon you because they weren't smart. Like Warren has to. Excuse me. We don't want to say that they weren't smart. Warren was more educated than many of the trustees currently, but you see why he's one of the best trustees out there in the public. You see a lot of street hard knock trustees. Those are the ones that have the businesses went into investing. They're still trustees. You see the gambit of trustees out there when you start looking at it from a trustee perspective. Who's a trustee? The ones that are managing the big hedge funds, the ones that are managing the banks. They're in position of trusteeship. How are they moving? And you get to see how they're moving. And it's just a blessing to see right now because they're showing you the private still reigns strong, the private market still strong, and you can still be very successful, very wealthy, grow your family in a capacity where, like we said, we even sat with an investor, real estate investor, 18,000 square foot house, and he worked a job. He's an ex-cop. He's an ex-cop. He worked a job. He got $1 million real estate company, but he has three other actual $1 million companies as well. He has a security company. He has some other companies. So it wasn't that he didn't diversify his portfolio. That all led from real estate because obviously his job wasn't paying him more than 100K a year. He was able to make sure his wife was retired since she was 22 years old. She hasn't worked since she was 22. I mean, I love that. That sounds amazing. It sounds like you graduated from high school and went straight to retirement. I mean, I want my kids to enjoy that. To be completely honest, if they never worked, I wouldn't give a rip. They're gonna work for the family anyways. So if they're gonna just walk straight into retirement with the family office, then that's perfectly fine. But it's a different type of thought process. They'll be trained up to know how to run a business. Why? Because they've been talked to their whole life about training them how to run a trust. What do you mean? That's everybody in the private. That's all they talk to their kids outside of other things. They talk to their kids about living in trust. They explain to their kids this is how they enjoy their lifestyle. And then you see some people that messed up. But I mean, traditionally, that's why you see ones that are trust fund babies continue the family legacy by going to Harvard, by going to Yale, because these family trusts, private family foundations, or whatever, have investments at these schools. Well, how long is charity going to be around? How long college is going to be around? Forever. Harvard has one of the largest endowment funds. Endowment funds come from private families. They're families that are investing in education. They want to invest in what they want their children to learn. That's how you change the face of your community is by investing in education. But you got to do that from a superior position. We haven't gotten at that level yet in America. Why? Because the elite are the only ones that are going to pick up the ball, lift their muscles, take weekends off because they don't need weekends anymore, and they're going to work their face off, and they're going to go get $1 billion company. They're going to go get $100 million company. They're going to develop a company that ends up employing you or your family. That's what they're going to go do. They're going to either go buy a franchise, that's a business, or they're going to invest in the stock market and they're going to learn to trade. They're going to focus on owning nothing, controlling everything. They're going to be focused on all type of investments and businesses. They're not going to be focused on working for anybody. Everybody needs a trust. But there's an education with it. It is. And that education is supposed to start immediately as soon as you hear the information. Why? Where else did you hear it? How long is it going to take for you to get it? Now it's a race to see how long it's going to take for you to get it. People sitting there tapping their watch. How long is it going to take for us to get it, Trust Christian? How long is it going to take for us to get this trust stuff? How long is it going to take for us to get this private stuff? How long is it going to take? I don't know how long. How? And then we tell you is continuing education is something you're going to learn forever. It's just a practice. Something you do for the rest of your life. Oh, here we go. We heard this one recently. Everybody needs a trust, but then people say, well, once I go private, I can't go back. So how you need a trust and then you're going to go back? What are you asking that question for? I need a trust. That's why you're on the phone, right? Yeah. I need a trust. That's why I'm on the phone with the Vote and Trust Christian. You're on the phone because you need a trust. Okay, great. We established that. You need the private trustee knowledge. Okay, that's fine. So why would you think about going back? You want to know why? Because you ain't got nothing to protect. That's a fact. What do you have to protect? If you have something to protect, that's why you're calling, because you want to protect what you got. The reason why you're asking if you can go back is because you don't have anything to protect. What do you need to go back for? The reason why you're calling is because you have something to protect. That's years of education. trusteeship, it's all about protecting an asset. So, what do you have to protect? Here we go. We're going to end this episode on this. Everybody needs a trust, but you don't have an insurance policy on your life. We got so many that come to the vault. They think they know the type of policy they need, which is a trust contract on their life. An insurance policy is a trust contract on your life. So then you have a trust contract on your life, and then they don't stay in the training or they don't know the training. No, we're talking about the ones that listen to the vault on a YouTube, and then they might get a consultation. But why didn't you say you need a trust, but then you heard a little bit about the insurance, you asked about it. Why did you stop? Because you don't have a need to put insurance on the greatest asset that you have, which is you right now. Unless you have a significant other, it's you. Your greatest asset is your brain, your ability to get up every single day and do something for the entity, for the trust. Facts. So, okay, what happens if you go down? Well, if you go down, there's riders on the policy that we deal with the insurance agents that make sure if something happens to you. It's sort of like keyman insurance on a trustee. There's many different types of insurances. Keyman is one of them. That's not the one that we say at the vault that's for our system, but we definitely say, hey, that's one. People don't have insurance on their greatest asset. You think people in the private don't have insurance on their greatest asset, ladies and gentlemen? Are you guys serious? Where do you think insurance comes from? It's private. It's a contract. It comes from the private. So of course private people have insurance policies on themselves. They teach their children to have insurance policies on themselves immediately, not when they get older. Right now. You have a policy on you right now. It doesn't matter how much the policy's worth, son. It doesn't matter how much it's worth, daughter. It doesn't matter. Why? Because it's insuring us, the money. We're the ones that generate the money. For now, until the investments do it. Then we have insurance on the investments. Not just ourselves, but the investments. Do you see how the insurance industry is the single-handed largest industry in the world? That moves banks? That does underwriting? But I want to go private. I need a trust. You need a trust, but you didn't get the insurance policy going yet. And then you say, oh, I need the insurance policy, but I don't know how to do it through the trust. Well, you might want to get in trustee training. Or you might want to get in the trust. That's how it works. It's you investing in yourself immediately. Why do you wait? Where else have you seen a program for less than $250,000? Those programs aren't really around. Trusteeship is traditionally made for people that have something to lose. So it's almost, a double negative when we think about it, because we enjoy the fact that that's what's talked about in the private sector, is how because people don't have enough money, they're not able to sit in those environments. Because they're not in the proper entity, they're not able to sit in those environments. And investments are happening all the time, publicly and privately. And the private investments, the reason why it's called the private sector is because of the entities that people are operating in, and partially because of their wealth. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening live or tuning in a replay. It was an awesome episode. Definitely wanted to talk about everybody needs trust. Everybody said they need it. Everybody said we've had people come to us with $1 million tax liability, and still, because they have a public education, they're thinking that they can find the answers on the internet. It's private education, ladies and gentlemen. You have to learn it from a mentor or a community. It's not on the internet. We never said it was on the internet. We said a community or a mentor. It's a community or a mentor. There's no way around it, ladies and gentlemen. The vault is a exposer of the news. We can even talk about Aretha Franklin. We saw some stuff recently on her and just didn't save the article, but her estate is going through probate. This is somebody that's a very prominent, world-renowned artist, music artist. So if you all want to look her up, you can look her up. She's someone that our family enjoy listening to her tunes. She has classical music in the rhythm and blues section, and she has a beautiful voice, and her estate is looking like she's an uninformed family. Why? First of all, went through a will. There's no trust present. We still haven't seen a trust present. So you think about somebody that just has $70 million in their lifetime. They made $70 million, and guess what? It's in a will. So it's going through probate. So the lawyer that's there is now about to get paid off of the probate fees. Yep, we're going to interpret this contract. We're going to take this contract and we're going to administer the estate because they're the probate attorney. What are you? You're the beneficiary. Up here comes the beneficiary tax. Here comes the inheritance tax. Here comes all the estate taxes. All these other taxes. Bam, bam. Oh wow, 70 million just went down to like 20 a piece or less for children if there's less, more than one or two. So we appreciate you all once again. Christian at Trust Christian, we have a trustee training program. We're going to allow another week for people to enroll in the trustee training program. It's a 12-week course. It deals with trust law, trust cases, trust growth. We're not going to say that it's everything. Everybody says, well, is this everything you need to know? It's like, I mean, come on. It's a continuing education program. We would love to tell you it's everything you're going to need to know. It's a great foundation. It's a great foundation in the knowledge that people know. We're talking about we've dealt with trustees at all levels. There is no, oh, well, I'm coming to this and I don't know anything. Okay, well, we've dealt with trustees that had lawyers. Lawyers are traditionally trustees. We've dealt with lawyers that have been lawyers for over 20 years and they still say, well, man, it seems really new. But I can see the concept. They can see it all. Just like you all see it all. They just say, hey, well, I'm going to invest in it and find out the training. They find out the training. They find out, oh, wow, okay, I can do this with trustees and clients that I work with currently. Yeah. It's a training program. It's a system. So everybody has systems. You got a public school system. You got a private system. It's systems. Systems are what's running the world. So